All right, so for number one, this is the 4.4 concepts check problems. Excuse me. So starting off with number one, 12 negative 5 is the point on the terminal side of the angle theta. So angle theta would be this angle right here. And the point is 12 negative 5, so we draw the perpendicular to the right to the x-axis. And so we can label x with 12, y with negative 5, and we're looking for r before we can answer the six trig functions. Now, 5, 12, 13 is a very common right triangle, just as 3, 4, 5 is. Okay, so 5, 12, 13. And how we got 13 is by the Pythagorean theorem, solving for r. Okay, that's how you get the 13. So sine theta is y over r, and so y is negative 5, r is 13. Cosine theta is x over r, so that's 12 over 13. And tangent theta is y over x, and that's negative 5 over 12. The other three functions, cosecant and secant and cotangent, are reciprocals of the first three that I wrote here. So cosecant is reciprocal of sine, so this is negative 13 over 5. Secant is a reciprocal of cosine, so that's 13 over 12. And cotangent theta is a reciprocal of tangent, so that would be negative 12 over 5. Alright, so for letter B, I already plotted the point negative 2, negative 4. I drew the triangle, the right triangle. Again, remember, always towards the x-axis, the perpendicular. Here's the angle theta, and so we're looking for the six functions, right? So I have negative 2 right here, negative 4 right here. Now for this one, it's not one of those special right triangles, so we have to find the r by doing this Pythagorean theorem. 4 plus 16 is 20. When you take the square root of 20, it's the 4 times 5, so it's 2 radical 5. Okay, so that's r. So sine theta, as we could see the definitions up here, I won't write them again because they're already right here, right? So we are going to do y over r for sine theta. So that's going to be negative 4 over 2 radical 5. I can reduce that to negative 2 over radical 5. And so that becomes negative 2 radical 5 over 5. Cosine is negative 2 over 2 radical 5. That becomes negative 1 over radical 5, which is, when you rationalize, negative radical 5 over 5. Tangent theta is y over x, so negative 4 over negative 2, which is 2. The other three functions, so the reciprocal for sine theta is cosecant theta, and so I'm going to take the reciprocal of this one. For secant, I'm going to take the reciprocal of this one. Okay, so it's negative radical 5 over 2, negative radical 5, and then the reciprocal of 2 is 1/2. Remember, reciprocals keep the same sign. You do not change the sign. Alright, so see the angles in quadrant 2, negative radical 5, 2. So you're going to, first thing you do is you label the sides of the triangle. So this would be negative radical 5 and 2. So negative radical 5 squared plus 2 squared equals r squared. So 5 plus 4 is 9, and the square root of 9 is 3. Okay, so this is 3 up here. R is 3. Sine theta is y over r, so 2/3. Cosine theta is x over r, negative 5 over 3. Tangent theta is y over x, so negative 2 over radical 5. We're going to rationalize this to negative 2 radical 5 over 5. Okay. Cosecant theta, reciprocal of sine theta, 3/2. Secant theta, reciprocal of negative radical 5 over 3. So it's negative 3 over radical 5. And when you rationalize, it's negative 3 radical 5 over 5. Cotangent theta, reciprocal of tangent theta. So I'm just going to flip this one right here. Negative radical 5 over 2. So for number 2a, we have to find the value of the other 5 trig functions because they are giving us 1 for each of these problems. And they give you another piece of information. So for example, A, they tell you that theta is in quadrant 2. So that's why I have the angle here in quadrant 2. They gave us sine theta is 5/13. So remember, sine is y over r. So it's 5/13 like that. We're missing x. Now remember, this is one of those special combinations of 5, 12, 13 triangle. So that means that x is negative 12. Now, the negative, remember, isn't a distance. The negative just gives you the direction. So let me erase this. We're not going to need that part. Okay, so I've got all the measurements, for the triangle. Cosine is x over r. Tangent theta is y over x. Cosecant is a reciprocal of sine. So they gave you sine already, right? Sine theta is 5/13, so this would be 13/5. Reciprocal of cosine theta is secant theta. Reciprocal of tangent theta is cotangent theta. Alright, for letter B, they tell you that the angle is in quadrant 3. And how you know that? It's because it says that theta is between pi and 3 pi over 2. So pi is right here, 3 pi over 2 is right here. So it's between this angle and this angle. So it has to be in quadrant 3. They also tell you that secant theta is negative 5/2. So we know that secant theta is r over x. So 5, and then x would be negative 2. So we're looking for negative 2 square. We're looking for y, right? So this is 4/25. So y squared is 21. Take the square root. And because it's going down, it's going to be minus square root of 21. Okay? Remember, it's not the length of the leg. It's just the negative gives us direction. So sine theta would be y over r, negative radical 21 over 5. Cosine theta is x over r, negative 2 over 5. Tangent theta is y over x, so negative radical 21 over 2. And then cosecant, reciprocal of negative radical 21 over 5, I know it's going to end up being negative 5 radical 21 over 21. Cotangent, reciprocal of negative radical 21 over 2, is going to become negative 2 radical 21 over 21. Alright, for letter C, they're not telling you the quadrant directly, but you have enough information to figure it out. Tangent theta is negative, right, because it's negative 2/3. So we know tangent is negative in this quadrant and this quadrant. Okay, we know tangent cosine theta is greater than 0, which means it's positive. So we know cosine is positive here and here. So the quadrant that has both dots, that means that both conditions are satisfied, is quadrant 4. So that's where we draw the angle. So here it is. Tangent theta is negative 2/3, means that y is 2, negative 2, and x is 3. So that gives you negative 2/3. We need to find the r. So negative 2 squared plus 3 squared, that gives you 4 plus 9, which is 13. So it's radical 13. That's r. Okay? So sine theta would be y over r. So negative 2 over square root of 13, which is negative 2 square root of 13 over 13. Cosine theta is x over r, 3 over square root of 13. So that would be 3 square root of 13 over 13. Tangent was given to you. Cosecant, reciprocal of sine. So that's negative radical 13 over 2. Secant theta, reciprocal of cosine theta. That would be radical 13 over 3. And cotangent theta, reciprocal of tangent theta, negative 3 over 2. Alright, for number 3, they're asking for reference angle. Remember, reference angle is not a coterminal angle necessarily. So for reference angle, we're looking for this angle right here, the one I'm highlighting with green. Okay, for that angle. So to get that, we take the given angle minus 180. That would be 20 degrees. Now the way I would approach letter B, negative 345, remember I'm looking for this angle right here. And I know that a complete rotation is 360. So if I already did negative 345, how much more do I need to go to get 360? So I can just do 360 minus 345. And that would give me the answer that I'm looking for, the reference angle. Alright, so here's 5 pi over 8. And I know to draw it in quadrant 2 because 4 pi over 8 is half a pi. And so 5 pi over 8 is a little bit bigger than that. So it goes into quadrant 2. So the angle I'm looking for is this one right here. This one, the green one. So you take pi minus 5 pi over 8 gives you 3 pi over 8, and that's your reference angle. Alright, so here's letter D, negative 7 pi over 5. I converted it to a mixed number and I got negative 1 2/5. And so you have it labeled right there on the screen. So the angle we're looking for is this angle right here. This is my reference angle. So to get from here to here, I went pi, right? So how much more to get to negative 7 pi over 5? The answer for that is 2 pi over 5. I'm sorry, what? How did I get 8? Apologize. I wrote it wrong here. It should be a 5. Okay? So 5. 2 pi over 5. Alright, so we're looking for the 6 trig function values of negative 480. So what I did here is I added 360 to see how many rotations I'm going to have to go, and so it's one full rotation plus 120 degrees in the negative direction. So we start off at 0, and then so we're going to go negative 360 and then negative 120 more, which would land us about right here. About right here. And this is the angle that's associated with 4 pi over 3, because this is a 60-degree angle right here. Okay, so this is a 4 pi over 3 or a 240 degrees if we're talking about degrees. So the points associated with that angle are negative 1/2 negative radical 3 over 2, straight from the unit circle. So sine of that angle is negative radical 3 over 2. Cosine of that angle is negative 1/2. Tangent of that angle is radical 3. Cosecant of negative 480 degrees is negative 2 radical 3 over 3, because remember you take the reciprocal of the original sine theta. Secant would be negative 2, and cotangent is 1 over radical 3, which is radical 3 over 3, because we take this one right here, this one, and we do 1 over radical 3 and rationalize it, and that gives us that.